Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is week 2 of the Big 10 preview from Mr. Southside himself, the one and only Riley Magnuson. First and foremost, shout out to JB the Ticket at the Vegas Scoreboard Express at We Beat the Line, with that beautiful, beautiful new intro for ECSI as we get ourselves ready for the rest of 2022. Football kicked off yesterday, and it's kind of hilarious in my point of view. Defending Super Bowl champs, LA Rams, versus this year's favorites, the Buffalo Bills. And I thought the Rams were fortunate to tie it 10-10 at half, second half adjustments, and wow, the Bills just steamrolled them. They had no answer for Von Miller, number one. Continued pressure on Stafford the whole game. For me, on the other side, I don't think McVay did a good job in trying to get Allen Robinson off early. And it was Cooper Kupp. It was boom or bust with Cooper Kupp. People complaining already from the Rams, 7-10 seasons, they're quote-unquote fans. They played the favorites in the Super Bowl this year. And I saw the look from Josh Allen that I haven't seen from a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, this team is possessed. He's got weapons and weapons and more weapons. And if the defense is going to play like that, it's a wrap. They'll have that 1 seed. But we're here to talk college football. Big 10. Let's bring him on. The man with the plan himself, the one and only Mr. Riley Magnuson. Morning, Riley.
Morning, my friend. Happy Friday. Happy week 2 preview. You mentioned it. Won't go too much into last night, but anticlimactic game. But the Sean McVay critics were out in full force. If you're anyone that's critical of Sean McVay, the play calling was a little suspect there, but nonetheless, fantastic intro. You had me surprised there. That was absolutely nothing but nice. So perfect way to segue into no Big Ten action tonight. I think it's 14 games all tomorrow. Handful of them, will probably move by pretty quickly. Not anything crazy to see, but there's some few ones with some value and some good action. So I am ready to roll, my friend. And let's have a damn Friday. Let's have a damn weekend. I'm excited, my friend.
Well, we said it's the Big Ten review. There's a few games today, but we don't have to get into those. Again, I don't have my big boards here. I will have them back on Sunday. So this is your show. The stage is yours. You can go through all 14 of them. You can take some tidbits from each. If there's just snippets, fine. If there's more in depth, whatever you need to do, opening lines, over-unders, whatever you see in these games, give all the listeners and everyone that is ready to roll on Saturday some action.
I'm absolutely ready, my friend. I'll as far as we'll probably keep this rolling through Big Ten basketball as well. I had to get checked by our mutual friend CH, Mr. Carl Haskell. John Rothstein, I still follow, tweeted out the Michigan State basketball schedule, and if you haven't looked at it, go check it out. It is quite the non-conference schedule that they have going on. But CH clapped back with, can we at least get one night of football, for God's sake? So have to give credit there. But go check out that schedule if you haven't already. So we'll be talking Big Ten basketball and college basketball in general. Mr. Dawson, obviously a Big East guy and college basketball guy himself. So you and I are both excited for that. But we do have some good college football action tomorrow in the Big Ten. First one up, I think there's 4 in the early window. One that's, probably worth talking about a little more than the other 3. Duke versus Northwestern. The skinny on this game, essentially, I think this number, just to be, plain and simple, short and sweet, I think this number is inflated for a few reasons. One of them being, everyone has already seen Northwestern not only get a huge win, but on national television, the first game of the college football season, all of the college football world's watching. And you see Northwestern get a win over a Nebraska team that people had a lot of high hopes for. Now you bring them to their home stadium against a Duke team that people had similar expectations for them as they do for Northwestern, or did, I should say, for Northwestern. So if you've asked me, I was surprised that this one was up over a touchdown spread. I was thinking this one should be closer to Northwestern at the max, -7. So I'm not going to be taking Northwestern on the spread here. I do think we're going to see quite a bit of offense from both ways here. I think both passing offenses should have some success here. Duke rushing game still a question. Mateo Durant, their lead back last year, was really, really solid, and now he's gone. So still a bit of a question mark there. But, going back to that Northwestern-Nebraska game, I know it's been a couple weeks ago now, but Nebraska's passing offense, if it wasn't for 2 or 3 untimely turnovers, Nebraska's passing game was working for the most part there in that game pretty well. And Duke's offense, that passing game, I think is going to be a lot better this year. New quarterback coming in here for Duke, and I think it could be a really successful game plan there. Northwestern allowed 5.3 yards per carry to the lead back against Northwestern. It kind of helped them out that Nebraska was running at times there, but at the end of the day, if Duke has a solid rushing game, they could absolutely exploit it here. So, basically, long story short, what I'm saying here, I'm avoiding the spread altogether. I lean towards Duke plus the 10, but I'm looking at the team totals here. The game total has been kind of going up and down a little bit here. I think it was 56.5 up to 58, now back down to 56.5 and 57 in most places. So a little bit of a roller coaster there, but the team totals, Northwestern 33.5 and Duke 23, flat 23. I'm really interested in Duke team total over 23 in this one. I think they can absolutely get up to 28 points. I put this game, I shouldn't say a close or a coin flip. I think Northwestern wins. You heard me obviously gushing over Northwestern at least being better than the expectations. I got their over 4 wins. This is one of the ones I penciled in as a win. So I do think they win, but I think this is a much closer game than these numbers are leading on here. And I think we could be looking at a 31-28 type game here. And could Northwestern get up over their team total? Absolutely. And if, maybe Duke gets to 28 and Northwestern puts a 40 burger on them and covers the spread. But nonetheless, I'm pretty damn confident that Duke's passing game is going to have some success here. Quarterback can also run a little bit here. So I think one way or another, Duke's offense is going to put some points up here in this early window. So first game, with the pick that I'm going with here is Duke team total over 23. I believe it was -110 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I looked at this, and I know a lot of the experts don't have Duke, highly rated. They have them as one of the worst teams in the of the 130 this year. Northwestern, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't played in 2 weeks, correct?
Correct, not since the Nebraska game, correct.
Okay, so maybe a little ring rust, we don't know. I find it intriguing that the number was, touching 10. Maybe a slower start from Northwestern, a strong second half. I think Northwestern will get over that 33.5 myself. Okay. The Duke and the 23, you would assume they get to that 24 number now. That's the key number, obviously. Right. 3 touchdowns in that field goal. So I like where your head is. I like where your eyes are. For me, outside looking in, again, I'm trying to play the 2 weeks, the home opener. Here we come. We beat Nebraska and Ireland. If they come out guns a-blazing, this could be a 70 spot for both teams combined.
Yeah, totally. And I was leaning towards the over, but, getting that nice 23 number right there. I think they're kind of tricking us a little bit and thinking Northwestern, obviously making us think Northwestern's 10-point favorites. And Duke's passing game is really bad, so maybe that pushes the tempo up here, and we're just flying up and down. Like you said, could be 70 combined points both ways here. So that's game number 1 out of 4 here in the early window. Next one will go.
I'm just going to add. I'm going to add one thing also, and again, I am not the Big Ten expert, okay, but I will say this. It's a lot easier, and Northwestern's one of these teams. When they're a dog, they're dangerous. When they're a favorite, you might want to just pump the brakes a little.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't even be opposed to a tiny little sprinkle on a Duke money line. Like I said, I penciled Northwestern as winning this game and getting over a total of 4. But maybe an early little playing both sides on this one. Maybe I sprinkle a small bit on Duke because I expect Northwestern to win, but I am not putting it past Duke to put up a nice offensive showing and win this game here. So. Next one up, Ohio and Penn State. Ohio Bobcats, not Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio Bobcats and Penn State. This one is in Penn State. Number up, I believe, to 25.5 here. Total 54. Let me make sure I'm getting the right numbers here. 24.5 I'm seeing, actually, and 54 total. The team totals 40.5 for Penn State, 13.5 for Ohio. I think the over on the 13.5 was -130. But I mean, a lot of these games with these Big Ten defenses that are pretty good, and I think Penn State is in that category, up against whether it's the MAC teams or any lesser teams than that, have really, really shown a ton of success this year and last year in holding down these teams to a low point total. Ohio last year, not to apples and oranges for the most part last year to this year, but against much lesser teams than Penn State, 9-point outing against Syracuse for Ohio last year, 6-point outing against an even worse and putrid defense in Northwestern last year, only 6 points. So I'm kind of going with a 31-10 prediction here as far as Penn State rolling in this one. Still a little tentative because the Sean Clifford experience, the offensive experience that when you watch this Penn State team is really a toss-up. You don't know what you're going to get on a quarter-to-quarter basis, a play-to-play basis. So, I don't have strong thoughts here, but if I'm going anywhere, I might be interested in taking Ohio under the 13.5. But it's a MAC offense that is capable of scoring. So if they're down by a ton, maybe they're desperate and throwing the ball all over the place, and maybe they get over that 13.5. But not strong thoughts here. But if I'm going anywhere, I'll bet on the Penn State defense holding them down under 13.5 here.
Also a team that played early at Purdue, correct? And then this is their next game, and this is their home opener.
Home opener, yes. It was so they played last week, not in week 0, but it was either the Thursday or Friday night game. So they do have the extended. It's either 8 or 9 days of rest. Yep.
Okay. Outside looking in, 40.5 Penn State offense against a MAC. You would think they'd get there.
Yeah.
The 13.5, they're kind of enticing you. I could see 43-10, 43-13. So, yeah, I think Vegas is pretty good on this one.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with this one, and yeah, it's going to keep me away for the most part here. So if you wanted to, take a swing at a MAC team putting up some points, go ahead. If you want to take a swing at the Penn State team putting up a boatload of points in their home opener, which I do think they'll have a defensive bounce back after, not getting their ass kicked by any means, but not the type of defensive performance they had like last week. But nonetheless, we'll move on to a different team. Got the win against Notre Dame, obviously, but to our expectations of their offense were pretty damn disappointing. Arkansas State going into Ohio State. We got a spread of 44.5 and a total of about 68.5. It looks like here. Some of these games when they're this skewed, it's tough to find these team totals. I think the implied team total here is 56.5 to 12.5 here. Arkansas State, sometimes, most of the time it's tough to look at last year. When you have some of these mid-major or FCS teams that aren't very good, it's not that hard to look back at last year. Arkansas State loses 52-3 last year to Washington. And now you're getting what some think as a top 5 team easy in Ohio State, and probably coming off of, or definitely coming off of a game where they felt like they should have won by a lot more. So another one, if I'm going anywhere, I'm betting against Arkansas State's offense and betting on a lack of points here. Jackson Smith and Jigba, though, still game time decision for what I understand. He was seen in full pads at practice this week, but in a game like this, maybe they decide that they don't want to, risk him too much and maybe keep him sidelined for the most part here. So, having said all of that, Ohio State put up 50-plus points 6 times last year, 5 times against Big Ten teams. So, if they're really trying to put the hammer down, you would expect Ohio State to score a ton of points here. But this is another one where the lines might be, pretty damn close here, and it could be tough to get in here. So, if I'm doing anything, maybe I'm going a defensive Ohio State performance and holding Arkansas State under 12.5. What do you think on this one?
Who does Ohio State have next week?
Let's double check. I feel like I knew this one. They got Toledo at home next week.
So again, everyone in our lanes disappointed with the start of Ohio State. We were expecting them to fly over the 38.5 team total, which listen, I think we needed to give a little more respect to Notre Dame
Yeah.
there versus, I think the next 2 weeks, Ohio State will work on getting their offense
Yeah.
ready for Big Ten play. So one of these, you know what? They got me once. I'll wait till they get in the rhythm, because a lot of times you can play a strong first half, put up 40, 45, and then get the second and third stringers some work the next couple weeks. So I'm going to pass. Just wait till they get all lathered up for Big Ten play.
Yeah, and to kind of further that thought, after Toledo, the end of the month, it's Wisconsin, who's got one of the better pass defenses in college or in the Big Ten. So definitely going to want to get rolling here these next 2 weeks, and maybe Toledo, there's some value on them putting up a boatload of points. So next one here is this. I think we've got one more here for the early window, if I'm not mistaken. Minnesota against Western Illinois, alma mater of both my brother and my father. So much like my Illinois State boys last 2 weeks against against Wisconsin, I'll be rooting for them, but not expecting much here. This spread, it looks like it's at 38.5, total of 52.5. I could be wrong. Sometimes these FCS games that are skewed like this are tough to find on some books, but we'll keep this one short and sweet. I think this could be a carbon copy of that Illinois State-Wisconsin game last week where Illinois State, I think, gets shut out. If they're lucky, they'll score 3, maybe 7, but at the end of the day, if you're doing anything, which I think it might even be tough to find, but if I'm doing anything, I'm betting against Western Illinois scoring any points in this one. So anything to add from you on this one, or should we move on?
We can move right on.
Alrighty, and as far as Minnesota going forward, there could be some value. I don't think they're getting enough credit defensively, so interested to see what they do this weekend and beyond. But next one up, one of the more intriguing games, just because of some of the spreads that we have here. One of the other ones versus two Power 5 teams, Washington State and Wisconsin. This one I believe has been pretty firm at 17.5. It looks like on FanDuel you might be able to catch 16.5 now either way. So that was maybe a recent move there. Total 49, I do believe. Wisconsin, obviously, we just talked about them, smoked Illinois State. That's their only game they've put up so far. And Washington State, a little bit of a head-scratcher against Idaho, FCS opponent. Not a very good FCS opponent last year, 24-17 win over Idaho. A team that allowed 250 yards per game through the air in FCS play. And this Washington State offense, their quarterback, Cam Ward, 25 of 40, 215 yards. That's 5.4 yards per attempt there, 3 touchdowns. And so when you're factoring that in against a team that allowed 250 yards per game at the FCS level last year, and now you're throwing them to Wisconsin's defense here, my Big Ten head is maybe getting a little too large, and I think Wisconsin should dominate their offense in this one, and Cam Ward might look really, really bad here. Washington State's team total is up at 15.5. And so, if it was down at 13.5 and maybe giving them less credit, I'd feel better that maybe Wisconsin's defense was going to smoke them here. I think I'm going to end up staying away. I lean towards Wisconsin. The 17.5 is tricky, obviously, because you don't know, what Wisconsin's offense is going to do. Washington State's rush defense isn't very good, so maybe Wisconsin, pounds the rock time and time again, which would absolutely control this game, give them the win here. But maybe they suck the life out of the game, out of the time in this game. And it's still kind of tough for them to score. So I lean towards Washington State staying under that 15.5. But, if they're down, they could be slinging the rock quite a bit here and frantically trying to get back into this game. And it might get them, up over that 15.5, get them to 17. So I think the numbers are pretty tough here, pretty tricky. But if I'm going anywhere, I'm betting on Wisconsin's defense here. What about you? I lost you there for a second. Did you? Was I cutting out there, or were you?
I had a signal, but you froze. I was still
Okay.
bobbing and weaving. All's good.
That's my bad. Okay, so basically I was kicking it back. I lean towards Washington State team total under 15.5. Wouldn't shock me if they're trying to frantically pass and get themselves back in this game. Maybe they get to 17. So it's tricky for me. I'm leaning towards betting on if I'm doing anything, leaning towards buying into Wisconsin's defense against what I expect a rough outing from Cam Ward. But anything from you? Would you agree with me, or maybe you're kind of skeptical? Maybe Washington State gets over that number.
No, I like where your eyes are here. Again, Wisconsin in these non-conference games leading up to Big Ten action usually dominates on both
Yeah.
sides of the ball. I think Wisconsin does dominate here, win the turnover battle. I think I'm not, listen, they got you on that 17 and a hook.
Yeah.
Does it land on 17? Does it land on 20? I would also lean towards Wisconsin covering and their defense shining against Washington State.
Yeah, it's 15 and a half makes it, a lot of these ones where these teams have been laying goose eggs or staying single digits, hitting 10, a lot of them have been, set at 13 and a half, and those have been the ones that have been staying under the team total. So seeing at 15 and a half kind of maybe hesitate a little bit, but obviously we just talked about Ohio State ramping up for Wisconsin. Wisconsin has this game in New Mexico State next week before Ohio State, so they're trying to ramp up as well and have some defensive. I mean, we could be looking at 3 straight single-digit performances from Wisconsin's defense. So interested to see how their defense looks, and if Ohio State's not rolling, then maybe we have a game on our hands in a couple weeks here against these two teams. So next one up, a different script a little bit here, quite a bit here. Maryland and Charlotte. This one is actually in Charlotte, and it took me a while to double check the weather on this one. I think the other 13 games out of this Big Ten slate have really no weather issues at all. Most of them in the Midwest here, but this one actually looks like there could be some rain. Looks like it could be heavier rain before the game. Obviously, I'm not a weatherman here, but it looked like we're going to be seeing some rain here. So before I was looking at this weather and assuming that it was like all these other games and we had some nice weather, I was leaning towards Maryland offense putting up a boatload of points. Their team total's up at 46.5 last I checked, unless they're adjusting it towards the weather now. But last I checked, 46.5. This Charlotte defense, I've been tracking them the last couple of years into this year now, and it's continuing into this year. This is a really, really bad defense. You can make the argument that it's potentially the worst defense in FBS football right now and last year. 260 passing yards allowed last year, 200 rushing yards allowed last year. It's tough to find a team that's got north of 200 in both of those categories in FBS college football. So those are rough numbers right there. Maryland kind of cruised last week right over Buffalo, 31-10 max score there. But Buffalo is quite a bit better defensively than Charlotte is by every stretch of the measure. You look at what Charlotte's done already this year: 43 allowed to FAU, 41 allowed to William and Mary. So that 46.5, when you look at it like that, 46.5 doesn't sound too bad. But obviously, if the rain's going to be pelting down, it could be tough for either of these offenses to move. I mean, the one thing that I don't know what to expect is Charlotte's offense versus Maryland's defense. Obviously, still some question marks for Maryland's defense there. And Charlotte's offense can put up some points on top of how bad their defense is. Their offense can put up some points here. But rushing-wise, 200 yards allowed in those games, in the 2 games last week, and 300 allowed in the one to William and Mary. So their rushing attack is looking absolutely brutal. So, if we are seeing some rain, then, you would expect Maryland's rushing offense to dominate here again. But, with the weather factor, it's going to keep me monitoring it for the next 24 hours. If the sky is clear and we, have no rain issue whatsoever, I'll be interested in Maryland's offense putting up a 50 burger here. But until I see some better signs from the weather, I'm going to stay away from this one. What about you?
Our buddy TJ, who is in Charlotte. Shout out to TJ. It's been a while. You met stiff arming in the Braves. Hold on tight there. He basically said that he could score on William and who. And but with that said, the weather is always a factor when you are playing overs or team totals, and you get a wet track to start, and a game that you're supposed to dominate. You could pull the reins back. So maybe meteorologist TJ here can give us an update on Saturday. But other than that, I would have been looking at a Maryland team total, expect them to score early and often, but probably going to be a pass here.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's a game total of 65, 66.5, and if we're getting some rough weather, that might be the easiest under of the damn season. So I'm not going to be I'm not gambling on the weather here, but maybe monitor this one, and over the next 24 hours, maybe it changes, and maybe you get some more confidence there. So moving on to the next one, biggest game of the Big Ten slate for sure, one of the bigger games. Well, at least if you ask me, maybe it's not actually by the national college football measure. But Iowa State and Iowa, one of my favorite rivalries in college football every single year. Iowa 6 straight wins in this rivalry, though, so they have dominated for the most part, obviously here. But with this line here, Iowa at -3.5 on FanDuel, on DraftKings today. I believe they bumped it up to 4, despite Iowa State getting about 70% of bets and money. And so it kind of leads me to believe the Iowa score from last week. Everybody in the world saw Iowa only put up 7 points, no touchdowns, 7 points up against an FCS opponent. And now you're hanging -3.5, 4 against obviously a fairly formidable Big 12 opponent, Iowa State. So people are going to be flocking to Iowa State, and it's already going that way as we're seeing to this point here. So I'm kind of leaning towards Iowa taking care of business here. As bad as their offense is, I trust their defense to hold down Iowa State, as they have time and time again in this matchup. Iowa State's rushing game, I don't think is going to work too much here. Iowa held South Dakota State last week, obviously South Dakota State, but they are, like I was talking about last week, number 2 team in FCS. It's not a bet they could compete at a decent level here in the FBS if they really wanted to. But 21 carries for their running backs last week, 53 total yards. And if you look back to Iowa State last year, Iowa State's case, you have Breece Hall, obviously big name there. Essentially neutralized him, 69 total yards, at least rushing the ball. Not a bad yards per carry clip, but really neutralized him. And now you've got a less talented rushing attack for Iowa State this year. And so I think Iowa's defense, rushing defense especially, is going to shine here again. So team total is 21.5 for Iowa, 18.5 at +100 for Iowa State. I'll predict 23-16, but give me the. I'm going to take the Iowa Hawkeyes -3.5 on the spread here and get the 7th straight win. And I believe it would be. I know they're 4-2 ATS in that stretch, so it'll be 5-2 if they get the cover here in the last 7 there. But what were your thoughts on this one? Game total I didn't mention is at 40. I know a lot of people have some thoughts there. A lot of people are going under. But what are your thoughts on this one for Iowa State?
Yeah, I mean, Vegas is telling us it's 21-17 final here. The key to Iowa State, do they get to 20? Obviously, Iowa peaking maybe last week. You should see some, obviously, more offense. Yeah. If not, you're going to get blown out here. I've been caught a few times going with Iowa State in this matchup, and it hasn't proven well. As you said, that Iowa's won 6 in a row. For me personally, the only side to play would be Iowa. But again, you could be talking after this game, wow, how did I not take Iowa State after what I saw last week? And now they're playing a much better opponent.
Yeah, and I think what I would say is that maybe that will get you an early exit and maybe get you into being a non-believer in Iowa, and you won't be taking them on a week-to-week basis after this if that is what happens. So wouldn't shock me at all if Iowa State had a nice game here and Iowa's offense is putrid again. But, I'll trust that defense and trust they put a little more up here. And I'll be going with Iowa in this one here. So next one up, I guess, is this maybe the second closest spread on the slate? I do believe it is. Virginia and Illinois, another one, about 4-point spread here in Illinois' favor. This is not their home opener. They had the Wyoming game a couple weeks ago. They were at Indiana last week. But it's another one where nobody's really seen Virginia at all this season yet. I think they're 1-0. They had their win against Richmond, 34-17. So really no one's taking stock in that at all. And now you have Illinois, who maybe some people saw week 0 because there wasn't much to watch. They saw them smoke Wyoming, right? And then I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday last week against Indiana. Felt like they should have won that game, whether it was the touchdown call that got called back or just they coughed up a lot of opportunities. They felt like they should have won that game. So I can see why people might be interested in Illinois. I'm not interested in them on the spread. I think this one is closer to a toss-up, and I was honestly surprised to see Illinois favored here. Not taking too much stock in last year's game. I am a little bit, though. But Virginia absolutely beat the doors off of them, 42-14. Brennan Armstrong back for Virginia. He was the quarterback last year. I think he had 5 touchdowns against Illinois last year. But Virginia's rushing defense is not good at all. So Illinois, Chase Brown could have another big game here today. It just kind of becomes that question of, is it going to be last year where I think the script was Virginia jumps to, if not a 14-0 lead, maybe a 20-0 lead. And if you look back at the box score, you see Illinois' rushing attack having 5-6 yards per carry for their running backs, but I don't think any of them cracked 10 carries in that game because they were passing for their life. And in last year's case, you had Arthur Sitkowski, who was about a 50% career completion percentage. Shouldn't be a starting Big Ten quarterback. Now you get a more experienced and a more efficient quarterback in Tommy DeVito. I think it's going to be a lot closer. But we're looking at team totals 30.5 and 26.5 here. And in that Indiana game, I think Brennan Armstrong in this passing offense is better than what we saw in Indiana's case last week. And Indiana, for the most part, was able to move up and down on Illinois' defense. So I really, again here, I trust Virginia's offense to have quite a bit of success here. Can Illinois' offense also have a lot of success? Yes. I feel a little bit more confident in Virginia's passing offense against Illinois' passing defense here. So another one where I think it's 26.5 last I checked. I'm interested in Virginia going over here, and Brendan Armstrong having a nice game again here today. And maybe we see a shootout. Maybe this one flies over the full game total. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Virginia as being my favorite play out of this one. The team total over 26.5 here.
We had a good run with Virginia the last couple of years. We've been able to pick our spots. The Illini here, you look back at last year's game and that model, and now you look and they're like, well, Illinois 4-point favorites. It is kind of a head scratcher, right. Kind of like enticing us to some Virginia play and some Virginia money here. I guess my thought process would be a track meet here, just in case the Illini get out early and then Virginia's got to rally back. So what'd you say the under-over was?
The full game over under 57.5 here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll go on record here. I'll take the over 57 and a hook here.
Okay, I'm with you on that one for sure. Yeah, I mean, Virginia's rush defense, if I didn't know or it didn't state it enough, it is pretty damn bad. So it really, whoever gets out early could dictate the pace of this game, who's controlling this game. If Virginia gets out, then it's probably going to be a passing attack. If Illinois gets out, they could be, controlling the game via the run, and they could be running up and down the field there. So, I'm excited for that one. Next one up, I think also here in the afternoon window. Not too much to break down for me here. Akron and Michigan State, 34.5 spread here. 56 is the game total. Michigan State, obviously a lot of people watch them kind of flirt around with Western Michigan. I can't, if that was that last week, I do believe. Maybe Friday night last week, actually. 35-13 game for Michigan State. 21-30. I think it was 21-3 lead at half, and then 21-13 heading into the fourth quarter. Let them back into the game. So in this one, I don't really know where to go in here. I was kind of a toss-up on that game. Could see anything happen in here or there, and kind of the same here, although I expect them to kind of jump out to that lead and probably aren't going to let Akron flirt around with getting in this game like they did with Western Michigan. So I don't have much of a play here, but I expect Michigan State to win this one. But at the end of the day, if this game is 40-10, that's still an Akron cover here. So I'm not taking this. I'm not bullish on Michigan State covering the number here, and I've got no strong thoughts for the most part here. Anything from you? Any team totals you like, or are you moving right along?
I mean, what is a Michigan State team total?
Let's see. Double check. I guess I didn't write this one down. Some of these, it's tough to find. I think it's 45. Flat 45 on PointsBet is what I see here.
45 with a 56 game total?
So 45 to 10.5 is what they got there. So maybe their team, or maybe their game total is, it's at 56. They've got their game total at 56 there.
And they gave you an Akron team total of 10.5?
10.5 there. I think let's double check with the number. 10.5 over at -120.
Something's not adding up here. And
right.
I'll just tell you this, when you see a 10.5 number, right? So if you saw 9.5, everyone's going to bet the over. When you see 10.5, everyone's going to bet the under. So I'll go on record. Akron team total over 10.5. How's that?
Okay. I could see it. I mean, 13 points. It's another one of these MAC schools. You can look back and, they don't have a ton of success here, but there's absolutely cases where, it's a huge score for the other side. But like I said, even 44-13 would be an Akron, taking care of the team total and covering. So it could be an absolute blowout, and you could still absolutely easily get this, over on the team total. So I'm with you. I could see that happening for sure. The rest of the slate is honestly pretty ugly, but we'll still touch on it. There's still at least something to see here. Indiana State, Purdue is the next one up. Kind of the same script as the Minnesota Western Illinois game. Illinois-Wisconsin game. Indiana State, same conference. All three of those teams, same conference. Missouri Valley, my near and dear to my heart as far as my alumni is concerned. Watched a lot of Missouri Valley football. But against Big Ten play, especially against these formidable Big Ten defenses, their offenses really stand no match at all. I think we've got an implied team total, which in a lot of these games it's tough to find the team total. I think the team total here, implied team totals, is 42-7. Purdue minus 35, I think, is what I'm seeing now on the spread. Up to 51 now. So maybe those team totals are a little bit changed a little bit now, but. Nonetheless, that's kind of what I expect. I expect Indiana State, if they're lucky, to crack 7. Last year, another one, 24-6 loss to Northwestern. A bad Northwestern defense, only scored 6 on them last year. So, again, South Dakota State, we've already seen, again, same team, same conference. 3 points from them against Iowa, 0 points from Illinois State against Wisconsin. I already told you we expect Western Illinois, something similar. I expect something similar here from Indiana State. Anything to add from you on this one?
No, I was going to say it would probably be a better if it was a basketball game, but no, I think Purdue would be favored by about 40. So no.
Yeah. Fair enough. Next one might be even uglier. Wagner, who I actually know, I'm right. 0-11 in FCS play last year. Maybe they had a couple FBS opponents, but I know 0-11 was their season record last year. 69-7 loss to Buffalo was their lone FBS game last year. Now they are 50.5 point dogs here to Rutgers, who I believe got the win last week against Boston College, 22-21. Right, you were spot on with some interest in Rutgers there last week. Game total 58. Another one tough to find the team totals, basically implying the 51-7 mark here. So I told you 69-7 to Buffalo. Maybe if you are seeing something similar and think Rutgers is chomping at the bit to put up a 60-70 spot, then maybe you go over. But I've got no strong thoughts. Any way to even break down a 50-point spread, or are you moving right along?
Listen, there is no way in holy hell Rutgers should be favored by 50 over anyone. But I'll just say, yes, sharp money was coming in on Rutgers. I talked to some BC people after the game, and this week BC just gave that game away. I guess Rutgers drove like 94 yards for the game winner. Hats off. Rutgers going to start the year 2-0. God bless them. Probably their only 2 wins this year. We can just move on.
They've got Temple next week, so we'll give them 3 straight to start the season, and then it goes south once they get into Big Ten. How about that?
There you go.
I'll need your help with this one. You've been helping us out with the Nebraska breakdowns. They've got Georgia Southern coming in this week. 23-point favorites right now. I'm seeing 62.5 on the game total. If you didn't see it last week, 24-17 lead over North Dakota heading into the fourth quarter. We were expecting whether you were expecting a big output from them or not, you were probably expecting more than a 24-17 lead going into the fourth quarter last week against North Dakota. Team totals, I believe, in this one, 43.5, 19.5 for Georgia Southern. Should we be expecting a blowout, a big bounce back from Nebraska before they've got next week? They got Oklahoma, biggest game on their schedule now that the loss to Northwestern is in the column. What are you expecting from the Cornhuskers here?
Are they at Oklahoma or is it at Nebraska?
It is at Nebraska next week.
Well, everyone expected after the week 1 meltdown to Northwestern that it was just Nebraska all the way last week. You didn't get it. So they're 0-2 against the spread. They're 1-1 this year. Will they win Saturday? Yes, they will. They'll be 2-1. Most likely they'll be 0-3 against the number. It'll be interesting to see what Oklahoma is favored by against Nebraska next week. I don't know if you have a look-ahead line. I'm going to just throw a number out. Let me think for a second.
Ahead.
Oklahoma at Nebraska. Oklahoma minus 10.5.
I'm seeing on DraftKings 8.5 right now. 8.5. Who does am I drawing a blank? Who does Oklahoma have this week? Let me find that out real quick. They got Kent State this week, so if they put up, not much to see there. So, game total is 72.5 there, but yeah.
They opened that number at 8.5, expecting the public will push that to 10.
Yeah.
So once it gets to 10, then the sharper guys will come in and take Nebraska plus the 10. I could see, again, a mediocre effort here by Nebraska, just puddling along.
Yep.
And again, 0-3 versus the spread, 2-1 record. Scott Frost's not season, his lifeline is on the line next week. So we'll be breaking that one down.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. That'll be interesting. But yeah, it's a massive game, biggest game of his career at this point, right? Biggest game of his career, absolutely. Or at least at Nebraska for sure. So, 2 more left. Next one, another 50-point spread. Hawaii Rainbow Warriors coming into the Big House in Michigan. Last I checked, we are seeing 51.5 on the spread, 67 for a game total. Did not see team totals available on the major books, at least, implying 59-8 is the implied final score out of this one. Anyway, I mean, I've watched a little bit of Hawaii. I've been a fan of enjoying these Hawaii games in the past. This one's not in Hawaii, so it's not the 10 p.m. start or 11, 12 p.m. start, but 10 points scored against Vanderbilt, and then they let the doors wide open and let Vandy go run and hide 63-10, and then last week 17-49. Any faith in Hawaii to cover any of these numbers, or is this going to be a Michigan 70 burger and Hawaii's lucky to get to that 8 number?
I mean, I know Hawaii was going to be bad this year. Again, we had opening week Vanderbilt first half -6.
Yeah.
They covered that. They were up 11, but 42-0 second half there. Yeah. And then Hawaii gets lambasted last week again. Vegas couldn't put up a bigger number. I mean, you're talking 50-51 against a Michigan team, which again is not Alabama, is not Georgia, meaning they're good offensively, they're good defensively. But again, you don't look for them to just go out and, I mean, they're implying right here again that, they're going to put up 60 points.
Right.
So I'm going to go on record here that says Hawaii doesn't get shut out. They get 3 or 7. Michigan will score 50, 52. I'm not touching it, but I'm going to say Michigan wins, doesn't cover.
I'm with you there. I was not going to touch it, but that's where my heart was lying. But Michigan and UConn next week. I don't think I see a number, but any predictions on what that spread will be?
Where's the game at?
It's in Michigan.
Yeah, that game will be probably around 42.
Let's see if don't have any look ahead numbers, but that one will be. I'll have some faith for you there. But
well, put it this way: opening day, UConn was getting 26.
Yeah.
And they lose. Actually, they were up 14-0 in that game too. I got to say it's at least 42. It's probably going to be even higher.
Yeah, and if Michigan ends up putting 67-70, then it might end up going a little bit higher than that. Michigan, they've got UConn next week, and then Maryland after that. So getting the offense rolling is definitely important going ahead into that Maryland game, because obviously we talked about potential high-powered offense for Maryland there. So huge number last week. We could be looking at 3 straight big numbers from Michigan. Last one up. Already talked about Idaho a little bit because they played Washington State last week. They are going into Indiana. Indiana is 1-0, took down Illinois last week. I think Friday night, late night. Excuse me. I believe I saw the spread. Another one can be tough to find somewhere, but I saw 23.5 favored for Indiana, and a game total of 53.5. If you're looking at last year's score, this is Idaho is an FCS team. Told you their pass defense was brutal last year. Illinois was able to move the ball in Indiana, and Indiana was able to move the ball, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Indiana was able to move the ball well on Illinois, so you would expect their passing offense to have a big, big day here. The implied score, though, 38-15, 38-14 range, maybe 38-16, kind of in that range. Last year, 56-14. Is there any way we shouldn't expect a similar score, 56-14 or even 40-13, and we get an easy cover for Indiana here? Or any interest in Idaho? Maybe I'm not giving them enough credit for last week's performance against Washington State.
Number smells low to me, especially the 23 and a hook, which means 24 or more. I think the public and the D-gens, will be flocking to Indiana. Now, I'm not here back in the potatoes. I mean, Idaho, excuse me.
Yeah.
But with that said, it smells a little fishy to me.
Yeah.
You probably 23 and a half, you probably land somewhere in that 34 17, 34 17, 34. I'll go 34-13. How's that sound?
I am with you. Yeah, like you said, my first gut is Indiana should cut their defense up like butter. But 23 and a half. It is a little bit low out of FCS team 250 pass yards last year. Maybe they've made some strides and they've turned it around. And I'm not giving enough credit for what they did against Washington State. But nonetheless, I'll be staying away from that one for the most part there. So I do believe that is all we've got for the Big Ten, my friend. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, as always, great job. I enjoy this. And yes, by the way, we will be doing this during basketball season. So I will tell this to Michigan next week. If you give us an ass whooping, I'll call up my buddy, Coach Hurley, and we'll put you on the schedule in basketball, men and women's, and we'll return the favor, all right? So be careful.
I love it. I was mentioning the Michigan State college basketball off-season or non-conference schedule. Did you see their non-conference schedule?
No.
They've got Gonzaga, Kentucky, Villanova, Alabama, Notre Dame on their non-conference schedule, not including a potential extra couple games with one of their early season tournaments.
Wow. See, and that's why I love Izzo.
Yeah.
And the fact that he goes out and plays the iron early, gets your team set for the Big Ten. That's why he's the best.
Yep. And I mean, it might be an ugly non-conference record potentially, but you can bet they'll probably be sharp and ready to roll come January, February, and into March. He's looking for some more late success, and we'll see. We'll see. I've got some research to do, but I love getting these random August, September little nuggets of non-conference schedule. John Rothstein's a robot, so appreciate him for always throwing out all that information.
And I haven't seen his countdown. He usually has that countdown. How many days till November 1st? Tell him he's slacking. I haven't seen it, so.
You might be right. I don't pay full attention. I'm looking at the wrong person there. So, I don't know. We'll see. November 1st is the start, you said, right? That's the official start? Yeah, so it'll be here before you know it. And, maybe we'll have we'll probably have a month worth of overlap of the college football and college basketball Big Ten. So I will be locked and ready to go, my friend.
Awesome as always. Listen, I want you to enjoy the weekend. Enjoy. I will check back with you. If I have a nice, easy trip up and back, maybe we'll do a quick show on Sunday. But I want you to enjoy the rest of today, enjoy tomorrow, and have some fun, will you?
Yeah, sounds good. If you want, I'll have a Big Ten blog based off a lot of the stuff I just dropped down. If you want to read further about it, I'll have that coming out probably this afternoon. And then I'll have a Packers weekly blog coming out, waiting on some more options. So I really don't know if that'll be this afternoon, tomorrow, or Sunday morning. But I'll have it locked and loaded, and I'll have it out of my timeline. So we'll be ready to rock and roll for some football this weekend.
All right. If you want, for all the people watching and listening as well, you can tag us on that as well. So both will be getting it. So
most definitely.
From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, live from Las Vegas, the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson, the one. We wish everyone a blessed day. The weekend's here. Have some fun, and we will see you soon.